Hi there, you are listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. My name's Matt Wakeling and this is the show that I produce in Sydney, Australia. Been doing so since 2016 and each week we produce two different shows. Our interview series happens on the weekends talking to some of the leading guitarists and guitar figures from all around the world. And midweek we drop our iconic albums series where I'm joined by my friends Rhodes and Gabor Josika, and we talk about some of the most influential records in our guitar collections. It's always a great hang, and for today's iconic albums, we're checking out a classic from the early 80s. Today's episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott. Now, Joe is not only a fantastic guitar player, he draws on his years of experience as the ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and also at the McNally Smith Music College. Here's a few words from Joe about the course.
If you're tired of wading through hundreds of random guitar videos and just want to become a better player, Fretboard Biology is your answer. Fretboard Biology is a self-paced, college-level program that'll give you the right instruction, in the right amounts, and in the right order. You'll learn the same information I taught to thousands of other guitar players over 30 years of teaching in top music colleges. If you want to make real progress with your guitar playing, then sign up for a free 7-day trial at fretboardbiology.com.
All right, iconic albums, number 14. I'm joined by my friends Gabor Josika.
Hello.
And Rhodes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're listening.
That's right. Rob, you brought this week's album to us. Over to you.
I most certainly have, and it is from 1982, Toto 4. The fourth album from Toto, which makes sense because it wouldn't make sense if it was called 4 and it wasn't the fourth one. But anyway, I digress.
Would be cool though.
It would be very ironic.
just to screw with people.
Be worthy of an Alanis Morissette lyric.
Oh, wouldn't it be ironic?
It would be. So recorded between June 81 and April 82 at Sunset Sound and Ocean Way Studio, and a few other sessions around the traps were also done. Toto is Steve Lukather, guitar and vocals, David Page, keyboards and vocals, Bobby Kimball, vocals, Steve Porcaro, keyboards, Jeff Porcaro, drums, and David Hungate on bass. This would be David Hungate with his final album with Toto, which would spell the end of their Mark I lineup, so the original lineup. As at 2017, when basically album sales dried up, it had sold over 12 million copies.
Oh.
Nice.
So at this point in time, Toto were almost done. According to Luke in his book, after the success of their debut album, which spawned Hold the Line, Georgie Porgy, their next two albums kind of failed. Never reached the heights that they were hoping. And I actually really love their third album, Turn Back. I think some of their best songs are on that album, like rocky, like really great rock songs. And they're their best songs in concert now. So they're still playing a lot of songs off that album. But the band definitely felt the pressure being dropped by the record company at this time. But they really needn't have worried. The lead single, Rosanna, peaked at number 2. And it sat there for 5 weeks on the Billboard Hot 100 charts, while the album's third single, Africa, topped the Hot 100 chart and became the group's first and only number 1 hit.
Ah, nice.
Toto 4 received 6 Grammy Awards in 83, including Album of the Year, Producer of the Year, Record of the Year for Rosanna. And it reached number 4 on the Billboard 200 albums charts in the United States shortly after its release. It also reached the top 10 in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Italy, Norway, and the United Kingdom and Japan.
Oh, yeah.
So, at that time they were really sort of worried what was going on. But Luke recalls from one moment thinking that he had to go back to doing sessions full time. And he turned around and they had the number 1 record in America with Africa. She's a Beauty had been a top 10 hit for the Tubes, which he played on. Turn Your Love Around was a number one in the R&B and adult contemporary charts that he wrote for George Benson.
He wrote that.
Yeah, and he won a
Wow.
Grammy for Best R&B on that song as a writer. And Thriller was the number one album all around the world, and he was on that.
Wow.
He was
So-
all over that, yeah.
83 was a massive, massive year
Oh, man.
for Steve Lukather and Toto in general.
Yeah.
So what do you remember 82, Matt? You would have only just been out of nappies.
Yep. Well, for about 8 years out of nappies.
Yeah.
hopefully. No.
Well, I didn't want to make any rash judgments. Some people can move a bit slower than others.
Actually, I think I've shortchanged myself. 82, I was 11.
All right.
I was hopefully out of it.
I'll give you the benefit of the doubt then.
Yeah, so learning guitar, BMX Bandits, cricket.
Oh, BMX Bandit. Okay. My favorite quote from BMX Bandits.
Yeah.
Let's put our heads together and come up with dandruff.
It's back. It's on Netflix. I got to check it out.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, her first film. Yeah. But I also had a little cassette recorder, cassette tape player. So I used to tape stuff off the radio. So I remember taping Africa off the radio. Hold the Line was awesome. I didn't know it was the same band, but the track stood out. You know, first record, as you said.
Yeah.
And Rosanna was a huge hit here in Australia as well. So yeah, so it was funny. I didn't really like Africa as a 10 or 11-year-old. It was probably too clever for me, really. But I've grown to
I
love
think
it.
the guys in the band liked it even originally, so
Really?
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into all of
we'll
that.
get into that, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some history. Hey, yeah. So that was my idea of Toto. I had Thriller. I bought it in '83. I went halves with my sister and bought it at Big W, the vinyl. She recently said, "Do you reckon they'd be worth much money?" Like, you know, I said, "Well, I don't know. There's only like 50 million of them in the world or something. So maybe not." But I didn't know he played all over that as well. Had I read the liner notes, it would have made sense.
He did most of
All
it.
the
There's a
guitar.
really good interview for a drum magazine, and it is about Jeff Porcaro, and it's Lukather talking about Jeff Porcaro.
Oh wow!
And very interesting. He did like 80% of the music you hear on Thriller is just Lukather.
Yeah.
It's yeah. I mean,
Yeah, he played
wow.
the bass. He did all sorts of things on that record.
When there was no drums, he did the drum programming. He pretty much, it was him,
Wow.
Quincy Jones, and Michael Jackson.
Far out, man.
And then I guess most of the Toto guys came in and played when there were real instruments, but he did just about everything. It's just Lukather. It's amazing. You know, the biggest album ever. And it's just about one guy.
Far out.
Did all the music.
And it's not Eddie Van Halen.
Nah.
No, he's responsible for like 60 seconds of it or 45 seconds.
But he got all the glory.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was me. Yeah. Enjoyed the tunes. Didn't really know the band back then.
How about you, Gabor? What does this conjure for you?
Well, in 82, I was 4. The only thing I remember from 1982 was, it's totally unrelated, the Football World Cup in Spain. And they had these sticker books, and you used to get sticker to fill in all the, you know, with all the soccer players. That's the only thing I remember from 82. I'm a bit of a latecomer to Toto and the whole Lukather thing. Like, I didn't realize all this stuff until literally, you know, a few years ago. I was aware of Toto through playing, you know, in different bands and playing Toto songs in bands, but the whole history of it and how they were all session dudes and how many albums they all played on and the whole connection with Michael Jackson and all that stuff, I never knew about that. But I mean, what a band!
Yeah.
That's just the first thing. It's just, and you can hear it when you listen to it. They're just all guns. And I mean, and I mentioned this earlier on, video clips with Street Toughs in it. We need more of that, 80 Street Toughs. And the guitar-bass double neck. I mean, that's just the coolest thing ever.
You saying Street Toughs?
Street toughs. You know, in Rosanna, there's those guys that look really tough and mean, like in Bad, Michael Jackson clip.
Yeah, I think they were going for a West Side Story vibe. That was kind of, I think, in that clip.
But, you know, like the 80s tough guys, we need more.
Street toughs. I'm going to use that term now.
Street toughs.
The Warriors.
80s street toughs.
There's some street
and 90s,
toughs.
like in Bad. If you watch Bad, all the guys in it that like look really tough and then bust out choreography.
Yeah, Beat It as well has that. Beat It has that as well.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Eat It.
Oh, yeah.
Love is a Battlefield. I think that's in that clip too.
Yep, Street Toughs.
In the bar. Yeah, Street Toughs.
See? Street toughs and smoke. You need a smoke machine. Smoke machine, street toughs. Anyway, sorry. Go on, Rob. Sorry.
Well, so for me, I got into Toto pretty late as well. I happened to cross a greatest hits album titled Past to Present, and that was released in 1990. And it had 3 tracks on it with this young singer that, when you read Lukather's book, that really didn't go well. And I think I found that CD in an old Paris video store.
Oh, wow.
Anybody remembers Paris Video? There wasn't many of them and they didn't last long.
Okay.
But this was a video
Before my
store
days.
that had a CD section. So I've got a lot of CDs in my collection that I got from there. Real weird, rare ones and bootlegs. It's very strange. But so I don't reckon I got that CD until like 93 or 94. And then I really didn't fall really deep into Toto until the Live in Amsterdam DVD, which was released in 2003. And then I was all in from there.
Okay. Yep.
I've seen them live, maybe twice now. And yeah, everything. I've gone back. I've got vinyls, I've got CDs, I've got live DVDs, Luke's book. We're going to get into Luke's discography, which is going to take us about 7 hours. So
Just that, yeah.
It's a triple episode, man.
Isn't he the most recorded guitar player ever, or at least one of the anyway?
He'd be one of them. There's a lot of guys that, kept doing it almost like when he stopped, when Toto became big and he had a solid. So there's still the Lee Ritenours and Larry Carltons and Jay Gradens and all those guys that continued, back of house after Toto went big and he kind of pulled back from it.
Right.
But yeah, it's just this band seriously maligned in critical circles. They were very much touted as a studio put together band. They were never really given the cred that they deserved, which was a shame because you just go through their back catalogue now and I don't think there's any other band that can really put their hand up to a back catalogue like this, like musically and stylistically. There are probably arguments that there are bands out there, but like, I'll question without notice for you guys. Do you reckon that there is any band out there that could survive or who has survived so many lineup changes?
Well, Spinal Tap with drummers.
I was going to say Spinal Tap.
Oh, that's what I get for asking a serious question.
Because who's original now?
So Luke and Paige is gone because his health's been pretty terrible. So you got Greg Fillinganes comes and goes.
Yep.
And both Picaras have died now, haven't they, Dave?
Well, there's 3. So Steve came back for a little while. He's gone, but yeah, Jeff was the first to go, and then Mike Picaro, who was replaced David Hungate
On bass.
Yeah, on bass, yeah.
on bass and he was there for a long, long time.
Okay.
And then when he got sick, Lee Sklar, guys like that came in and filled in.
Yeah. Okay.
But not only lineup changes, but I was trying to think of, outside of the Beatles and Fleetwood Mac, any other band that shares 3 lead singers. Like Toto has 3 lead singers. So at any time, Luke, Paige, and Bobby Kimball, or Joe Williams, or in a number of other lead vocalists they've had, they share lead vocals and they chop and change throughout songs, and in a similar way that we talked about Stormbringer between Glenn Hughes and Coverdale. It's not just one guy sings one song and the next guy sings. This is like from verse to chorus to bridge. They're chopping and changing.
Eagles maybe, but I mean they don't do that within one song. But
No.
yeah, there seems to be Don Henley songs and Glenn Fry songs. And,
yeah.
But it's just very kind of unicorn
Yeah.
in the music world.
Yeah, true.
Well, I think we exhausted that topic.
Awkward
I'll
silence.
just take that uncomfortable silence as that's less of a question and more of a comment.
Yeah, it's a good comment.
Favorite songs on the record, Gabor?
I mean, again, you can't go past Rosanna. That's such a cool song. So many parts in it too. The harmonies are great. I love the keyboard solo, and then it goes into the Lucas's shreddy solo. It's just killer. And I mean, I already mentioned the Street Toughs in a film clip. That's just awesome. You gotta have that. And also just the little bits in that, but actually throughout the whole album. But the little horn runs, but they kind of syncopate it with the drums.
Yeah.
And the little slap bass bit in the chorus, that these little slap. It's all these little bits. There's so many of them. It's just awesome. What's another one? I Won't Hold You Back. I like that one. Again, great solo, and I think Lukather, for the guitar god status that he's got, quite an underrated singer in my opinion.
Yes.
He's got a good voice.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Afraid of Love. I wrote down so many chords. Lots of chords in that song. There's a really cool kick drum pattern in that song. But I mean, again, you have arguably one of the greatest drummers ever in Jeff Porcaro. So really cool. Just a kick drum pattern in there towards the end of the song. There's a really cool kick drum pattern. Anyway, Lovers in the Night. I've listened to this album before, and I've heard this album heaps of times before. But it was another one I hadn't listened to in yonks, like a long, long time. And the first time I listened to it, I kind of got an ABBA vibe in that song.
Wow.
Like the production of it and like a more rocky kind of ABBA. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I kind of went, this kind of has an ABBA-esque vibe to it. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I think ABBA is great, and the production in ABBA is insane.
And topical at the moment too.
You bet.
Exactly. And it's got this really cool outro solo as well, that super shreddy outro solo that he does in that. We Made It, great voice. That's a thing. That's a keyboard player singing, isn't it?
I think so.
The same guy sings Africa.
Yeah, that's right. David Page. Yeah.
I think it is.
That's what I thought too.
And again, in We Made It, all these cool little guitar bits that are just sort of all over the place, and they're just these little bits that you almost don't really listen to. You don't really hear them, but then when you kind of pay attention to it, they're sort of panned. One's on one side, one's on the other side, and there's these little bits that always come in. And then, these little runs, and the drums play along with the horns, and there's all these cool little bits. Waiting for Your Love, did I just say that? The cool groove. It's such a cool, that's like an R&B style song almost. Great voice.
Yeah.
The changes, it sort of goes really cool as well. And I mean, Africa, you can't really go past that. Great 80s film clip as well. No Street Toughs, sadly, but Libraries.
It's like Jumanji, that clip.
It is a
waiting
little
for something to happen.
And just got to mention, with Africa, you've got to listen to the Weezer version of it. I don't think it's as good. It's of course not as good. And the drums, it's missing that kind of that swing kind of vibe.
Yeah.
The drums in the Weezer version, but the film clip of Weezer's Africa is them doing almost a Weird Al version of themselves of the Sweater Song film clip, and Weird Al is singing in it. So he's the singer in the clip. And there's a really cool live video on YouTube of Weezer doing Africa. And then when a keyboard solo comes in, they call out Weird Al, and he comes out and plays it on an accordion. And really, really rocks it on an accordion. It's great. So, but I mean, Africa is such a cool song. It's and it's a song I remember from. It's just a song I've known for all my life. I've always kind of known it and heard it, and never really put two and two together that it's Toto and Steve Lukather and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's a great album. The whole album is very good.
Absolutely. How about you,
and just
Matt?
killer playing, all of them, killer playing and singing.
Yeah.
I mean, the main voice, whatever his
Bobby
name
Kimball,
is.
yeah.
What a voice.
We're going to get into some stories about that very shortly.
Man, I love it that they've got the guy who just comes and sings the crazy high stuff and then just steps back.
I mean, Rosanna, it just goes ridiculously high.
I know. Oh, man, well, for me, yeah. I mean, Rosanna could be a podcast all by itself, I reckon.
Yeah.
It is the greatest 5-bar guitar solo of all time.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I reckon it's one of the greatest pop guitar solos of all time. But it's kind of cool how it's 5 bars. I've been working on it just for fun. It's so cool. And now I'm trying to learn the outro solo. Crazy hard. But
that's a tricky solo.
But it's fun trying to force my fingers to do this stuff. Man, he's such a good string bender. He's such an expressive bender. Name drop. I had Andy Timmons on the podcast a couple of years ago. Killer player, and
he's amazing.
I was talking about his bending and whammy bar stuff, but especially his string bending. And I said, "Is that like Jeff Beck?" He said, "Nah, Steve Lukather was the big influence for me in the way he bends." And yes, just really, really expressive. For a quote unquote studio guy, he really had his own voice very early on. It seems, or by the time we started hearing Toto records, obviously, he was a veteran by then already. But yeah, Rosanna's awesome. Africa is awesome. I've only ever played Africa on a gig once. It was for a wedding reception, and it was a request from the bridal party. I thought, what's this for? And they just wanted to sing it. They just wanted to go off. It was the best. It was the best. The whole band, we were so pumped to play it. So, I can't remember who sang it. Oh, it was a band.
That's once it goes to chorus, that's so high again as well. The voice, it's insane.
That's Bobby Kimball again, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Would have to be, and then the harmonies are even higher.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
Lukather, I think you said Gabor. Lukather is such a great singer, though. He sings the more rocking stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
If you need that, but the verses of Rosanna, he sounds awesome, man. Singing that stuff.
I always love Georgie Porgy. That's such a cool song, and his singing in that is so good. Yeah. I just love that song.
Man, that was a gig staple, Georgie Porgy. Have you guys busted
I still play it, yeah.
Yeah.
I still play it.
I think I might have played it once.
Cool song, man. Waiting for Your Love, that kind of seemed like to be from the same universe as Georgie Porgy, that kind of sophisticated groove.
Yeah, really cool groove, that song. It's,
The
like
songs,
Georgie Porgy.
The song, they're sophisticated songs. The progressions, the structure. There's really lots of really interesting parts going on. Look, it sounds very much like it was a record made in '82.
Oh yeah.
Several of the songs could be the theme song for any '80s kind of sitcom or romantic comedy. or a film montage.
Montage, yeah.
Whenever you hear a saxophone, it's like instantly
gonna need a montage.
Afraid of Love is a very cool rocker, but it could definitely be a montage for a teenage.
How many chords are in that song?
There's a lot of chords.
Insane. There's so many chords in there. I was trying to kind of work it out, and I was listening to it. I was listening to that album and at the guitar, and I sort of noodled around with it. And I lost track of it. Too many chords in that song. Anyway, sorry.
I gave up at 12. Once I got to 12 different chords, I stopped learning it. That was it. Hey, I won't hold you back. If you need a great 80s power ballad, this has got everything. It's got the piano. It's got the string pads. It's got real strings. It's got clean chorusy guitar. It's got rim shot on the snare drum. Verse 2, perfect. And that solo, man, with the strings orchestrated around it. That's a great tune. Sounds like I'm paying out on it, but that's a fantastic tune. Lukather's tones, man, like that lead tone, that's something that kind of, I guess maybe it's an 80s thing. It just sounds like just a fantastic tone. I still aspire to that kind of thing when I want a really big solo tone. It's the lead tones from this record.
It would be a very expensive lead tone. I mean, the rig he was going through back in those days, holy moly.
Yeah.
Well, the studio rig, we'll get into that, but the studio rig isn't all that elaborate.
Okay.
Yeah.
The live rig, I remember seeing some Lukather, like Hot Licks kind of videos.
Yeah.
Man, that Bradshaw rig he had, that was
Once he hit the
massive.
mid-80s, he was carrying some fridges around.
Yeah.
But once they got to the 90s and they left them at home, they still sounded incredible, all these players. And they could still pull those tones with a few pedals.
And those Bogner amps that he uses now, that's on the wish list.
Yeah. Just with the I know we'll talk about gear, but I mean, Lukather gets a bad rap sometimes for being the overly processed guitar tone guy. But I think he has said himself, everyone was doing it in the 80s. And if you listen to the tones on this record, especially the distorted tones, I don't know, man, to me, they just sound organic and fat. They just sound awesome. And I still like chorus anyway. I never stopped using chorus, so maybe that's why I don't understand the hoo-ha.
Yeah.
Anyway, that were kind of my standouts, but I really enjoyed all the 80s kind of teasing I'm doing too. I loved it. It's of it. Some of the songs do sound of their time, but I enjoyed that. Sort of like the ABBA comment from Gabor.
Yeah.
Like, in a good way.
It is. Next time you listen to that song, Lovers in the Night, just think ABBA and you'll know what I mean.
I love ABBA.
ABBA's great. We should do an ABBA iconic album.
Okay. If a dancing queen gets called on a gig, I am all over it, man.
I used to love playing Waterloo. It's just really great, you know, groove and chord changes. And because I would do it in a trio, I had to fill all that instrumentation.
Do all the hooks. Yeah.
So I came up with a capo on the second fret because it was in the original key, and you just play all the little counter melodies off the open strings, and you have to get inventive when you're in a trio.
Yeah, nice.
No tracks.
Yeah.
Crazy. So for me, as a guitar player, I can't go past Rosanna and Afraid of Love. And honorable mention goes out to the solo in Lovers in the Night.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, that is
That
just
shreddy outro solo, that's
outro. Yeah.
amazing. I'm also, as you're probably all becoming aware, I'm a sucker for just a really good pop hook. And so the Motown vibe and the hooks of Make Believe and those harmonies just drag me in straight away. I want to, kick my shoes off and dance around the backyard.
Oh, yeah.
When I'm cranking that. And Good For You is very similar that way. The hooks, you just want to start singing them. I love the pocket groove of We Made It. And then again, that chorus, when it's got the Motown groove and then it goes to that double time feel. And the tambourine, that's a standout for me in that song. Yeah, this song wouldn't be the song without the tambourine.
You've got to have that in that Motown groove. You've got to have the tambourine. That makes it.
It's just pure gold. I wonder where that tambourine is now because it sounds really good. And it's hard to get good sounding tambourines for anyone out there.
It's probably at the Hard Rock Cafe or something. On the wall.
Lenny Castro's probably still got it somewhere. Shout out to Lenny Castro, who does all the percussion on this album.
Nice.
He's a monster who has credits list as long as Lukather's, I think. Played on so many records. So for me, it's another one of those records that I don't ever skip a track from start to finish. And you guys say it's dated. It's really interesting that when I listen to it on Spotify, you got to get to a certain volume where the speakers are moving. But when I put it on vinyl, which I showed you guys before we started, I have an 83.
Show us on the podcast.
82. Here you go, folks. Use your imagination.
Special glasses.
Ooh.
On the record player, it sounds so much like more alive. And I know I'm going to probably get shot down as one of these guys who says vinyl and analog's better. But there is just
absolutely is.
There's something about it. I don't know whether it's the connection, whether it's the, there's no limit to what can be put on a vinyl record. It's not compressed into 20 and 20,000. So there's that harmonic content and the relationship between the needle and all that stuff and the tone arm. Look, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. But
Totally agree.
it just sounds, it's just different. It's different than what I hear on Spotify. And I have lossless audio on Spotify, the high quality.
Yeah.
And I've got some good setup here, but going inside with the hi-fi and on vinyl, it's something pulls you into it. And I can't do housework without vinyl playing. It's just something. I don't know, it takes me back to my childhood, I guess.
Yeah. You gotta be careful. That's all. You can't jump around with a vinyl.
No, you can't. Especially my Technics one. It's so on the, so on the limit of where it's, where the arm's set up. But it's great. Couple of little things before we take our first break, I guess. Actually, should we just take the break now?
Sure.
Come back and we'll talk gear and fun facts.
With Rob.
This episode is brought to you by Fretboard Biology, the comprehensive online guitar course put together by Joe Elliott, ex-head of guitar at the Guitar Institute of Technology and the McNally Smith College of Music. I was one of the beta testers for the course and can say as a music educator, I was really impressed by the logical sequence of learning. The course has also been endorsed by players such as Brett Garsed and Greg Koch. For more details, check out the links in our show notes. Welcome back to Guitar Speak Podcast Iconic Albums number 14. Rob has brought along his vinyl copy of Toto 4, and we're talking all about it. Back to you, Rob.
We are. Well, I wanted to get into the gear, and we have touched on the gear a little bit. But first and foremost, probably the most expensive guitar that he owns, and it was all over everything. It's over Rosanna. It's on the solos, and that's his 59 Les Paul Standard.
Oh, man.
Serial number 90494. So anyone from Chibson who wants to make a clone, that's the serial number. But
And he never put a Kalo trem into it.
no, he left that one as. So that was his primary guitar throughout the whole heyday of Toto.
Really? Wow.
It's over most of the sessions, including the main riff of Michael Jackson's Beat It and Lionel Richie's Running with the Night solo. It's all that 59 burst.
Physical, Rob? Did he use it on Physical? The Olivia Newton-John hit?
I didn't look that up. As much as I love that song and I love that solo, I didn't look up when that one was. But it's got a trem on that solo from memory, so it's most likely not the 59.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a few dive bombs. So he also had a 58 gold top.
Wow.
And most of Toto, the early albums, he changed a little bit around this time, but most of them were his Les Paul straight into a Blackface Deluxe reverb that was modified by Paul Rivera.
Okay.
So there's a few little things that happen. Paul Rivera actually made Luke's first pedal board as well.
Oh, cool.
With all the analog old Roland choruses and stuff. Luke had some really amazing stuff, and it all got stolen. He had 4 original tube screamers that Ibanez gave him, and a whole bunch of other stuff that just ended up going missing from a warehouse storage.
Because did he in those days already have that Ibanez signature guitar, that Roadster type guitar? Was it? It's
a funny story because, he didn't really get on. They sent him one. He's got the prototype of the only one they ever made, and then they put his name on. Well, it was an unofficial signature model. So
okay.
I think it was the RS. Oh, come on, someone will correct me. RS 1500.
Because if you watch the "Waiting for Your Love" clip,
he's got the green
he
one.
plays that in that.
Oh, really?
I think he plays that in the clip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Late 70s Marshalls, all standard, but he did say that Rivera might have done a mid-range mod on those late 70s Marshalls.
Okay.
And he also had a 71 Gibson Les Paul Deluxe. Now, around this time, he got given some Valley Arts Strat copies, and this was his introduction to EMGs.
Ah, okay.
So, yeah, he had a few of those, and other things that made it onto this album were 51 Fender Esquire, which he paid $600 for.
Right.
Wow.
$600. Yeah.
There's a few more zeros than that now.
Yeah, and he's still got it. Apparently, still got that one. There was a 63 Strat on those early records, but he said he never really took to Strats.
Okay.
And that's why when Valley Arts came around, he had a 79 Valley Arts, which was he nicknamed Robot, and an 83 Valley Arts Custom Pro. For effects, again, like not much happened in the studio, but PCM 70s, the Lexicon.
Oh, yeah, reverb.
And the Roland SRV 2000.
Okay.
So that's where he got all his echoes and stuff from.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. There's not much. He didn't do a lot.
I wonder if he's with those modded amps. I wonder if he's like boosting them as well with something for those solos.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There didn't seem to be a lot of that going around. And from what I could find out, he wasn't using drive pedals. It was mostly just cranked amps.
Yeah, right.
That Fender Blackface. He said when he started doing sessions, what he learnt from Lee Ritenour and Jay Graydon was the little Dan Armstrong orange, what's that one called? The orange crusher.
Oh, the thing that
the
goes
little
straight
box.
into the guitar. Yeah.
He's using one of those.
Right. What's essentially a boost of some description or a compressor
Orange
or something.
ringer or something like
It's
that?
like a treble boost.
Okay.
Yeah, but they put him onto that, but that was really early on. He wasn't doing much of that. And so
Orange squeezer.
Orange squeezer, that's right. And this is with his 59 Les Paul, they were just jamming Rosanna in the studio.
Uh-huh.
And that whole out solo and jam is live.
Right.
Of course it is.
And it's one take. It's the first take. They never rehearsed it and they didn't speak about it beforehand. They just finished recording the song and went into that thing free form, and what's on the record is what it is, you know? And he's had a couple of moments like that. In his book, he talks about the Hold the Line solo,
Yeah.
where the studio, all of those cats were in there. I think from just off the top of my head, I'm probably going to get this wrong, but there was Lee Ritenour, Jay Graydon, maybe even Larry Carlton were all in the control room when they hit record.
Yeah.
And he just blazed and they went, well, you got it. You know, no
Far
pressure.
out.
And he
Far
nailed
out,
it the
man.
first take. Crazy, man. Like the amount of, we could do a series of 14 episodes on Lukather, but
Yeah.
crazy. Did you guys pick up anything else as far as the gear went?
No.
I didn't. I was really interested in what he used on this record because I knew about the Valley Arts thing. I wasn't sure where that came into this record's history. I knew he had the Les Paul. I knew about the signature Ibanez, but I didn't know when that was.
Yeah,
So-
same here. I wasn't sure.
That's really interesting. So like on Lovers in the Night, that's got some whammy bar. Was that maybe the Ibanez or the Valley Arts?
No,
perhaps?
that's the Valley Arts.
Okay.
Yeah. He was.
I'm not sure if the Ibanez had a trem arm. I think it was
okay.
a fixed bridge. I'm not 100% sure.
They
but-
came along in like, I had an RS 1300, which was an 84 model. And that
Okay.
was that was kind of like the standard. Well, no, there was a standard Roadster, and then this one had the bird's eye maple cap, and it was a curved top. And then the Lukather model, which they call the Lukather model, but I don't know. Again, when I was reading about it, Luke just said they sent him a prototype. It was a Rickenbacker style. There's a picture of it on Lukather's site. He's got a gear page, and it's got all of his guitars and amp rigs throughout the years.
Cool.
And
That's
it's got that original prototype, and he hated it. He said it was very Rickenbacker-esque, and he didn't like it. It sounded like crap. And then they put one out that sounded even worse. But he didn't really stay with Ibanez very long, and that's when he the Valley Arts thing. He gravitated towards those, and
Yeah.
it got sent with the EMGs, and he was sort of sold from there.
He was like the poster boy for that. Valley Arts has a really interesting history. I mean, essentially they were parts guitars.
Yeah.
Just very high quality parts, but yeah, and I think the most recent iteration, they were owned by Samick for a while. You
Yeah,
could buy a
I remember
Samick
those.
Valley Arts in the 90s. You see them going on Gumtree and stuff, like
Yeah.
people asking big money for them and saying, well, it's a Valley Arts, sort of. I think Gibson bought them, actually, but hasn't done
Okay.
anything with it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean,
Apart
they
from
own most other things.
Lukather, I remember that Jack Jones used them in the Southern Suns
Yeah.
days and during the Full House tour with John Farnham. He had the Valley Arts with the camera mounted to the headstock for that. Oh, that is one of the greatest live concerts at the time.
Yeah.
Farnham was on fire, and that
Oh, yeah.
band was super hot.
Yeah,
So good.
yeah, Phil
And
Buckle
Irwin-
on guitars too.
Yeah, and Erwin Thomas was just he was definitely in that scene, that Vi thing. He had so much whammy bar going on. That
Yeah.
Valley Arts, just absolutely perfect.
Well, he loves Mike Landau as well, who
He played Valley Arts.
and was, a real contemporary of Lukather and Dan Huff, the kind of studio cats of that era.
Well, him and Landau went to school together.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, so they've been
Wow.
friends for forever.
Yeah, cool.
Check out Luke's book. I did the audio book because it's a great way to pass time in traffic.
Because does he narrate it himself? Does he
Yeah,
read it
and
himself?
it's amazing because like with all these books, when you get the audio books, they remember stuff. So they do like
okay.
at the end of the chapter, then he'll just add a little bit that's not in the book. He
Yeah,
goes,
right.
since writing the book, I remember this little story that I wanted to
that's
add for the
cool.
audio book, and it's really great.
Nice.
All right, fun fact time.
With Rob.
All right, the band delayed touring on the back of this album to instead help with the production of Thriller. So with Luke and Jeff Porcaro in there, they were working on Thriller. So they didn't immediately go tour on the back of the record. And they were also working on Chicago's comeback album, Chicago 16, that same year.
Wow.
So that's pretty amazing.
Man.
Yeah.
One thing from the book that Luke talks about, and I can't even fathom how they did this, but technology for the kids out there, they used to record to tape. And I know there's a few kids out there that are really into tape, so you'll really enjoy this one. The Africa vocal, Bobby Kimball's chorus vocal, the super high one,
Yeah.
one take. They could only get one good take out of him.
Uh-huh.
So they recorded the vocal onto a second tape machine on a loop and then ran that tape machine into the second tape machine. And every time the chorus came up, they had to sit there and try and guess where it was on the loop, line the loop up and press play so
Wow.
that the main vocal went onto the chorus, and hope that it all stayed in time and in sync across the tapes, because every time they press it, tape would get warm and stretch, all these sorts of things. So they had to do that every time. And they reckon they did it, I think from memory on the book, he said they managed to nail it first go. But they were so
Yeah.
frustrated, and this happens so often with Bobby Kimball in the studio,
Right.
because Paish was so particular about what keys songs would be in when he wrote them, and he wrote them never thinking about the vocal. So I was like, you had to bring your A game to sing a lot of these songs, which was the beginning of the end for Kimball because he just couldn't do it live, especially once he started to get into the drugs further on down the track. What else? Eagles bass player Timothy B. Schmidt sang backing vocals on the chorus of, and why didn't I write this down? I think it's on Africa. He wrote I've got the vinyl. I could pull it out and will tell me. But yeah, he sang backing vocals on the record.
Man, he's a high singer.
I know that song that he sings, the ballad for the Eagles. What song's that? I can't tell you why.
Yeah.
That's so high and pure and clean.
Yeah. Far out.
I mentioned it before, but Mike Beccaro didn't join Toto until after this album. But he contributed cello on Good For You. Played a bit of cello on that. The song Rosanna got its name from the actress Rosanna Arquette, who was dating Steve Beccaro at the time. It's a funny story because Beccaro didn't write the song. It was written by Paish. He was just looking for good lyric ideas. And from Song Facts, he explained that Rosanna was about a high school love, one of his first loves, but it just tagged another Rosanna's name. He tagged Rosanna's name on there because she was going out with Steve at the time and it just worked phonetically in the song. He liked the way it sounded. Toto 4, they were recording it in Studio 2 at Sunset. At the same time, Van Halen were in Studio 1 recording Diver Down.
Oh, yeah, man.
So imagine that. Can you imagine the studio logs from that time?
Far out. And
Crazy.
Lukather and Van Halen, they became good friends.
Yeah, very
wow.
tight, those two. So David Paish, obviously keyboards and vocals for Toto, he won his first Grammy Award as co-writer of Boz Scaggs' song Lowdown. And
nice.
everyone will know Lowdown.
Yeah.
It's like one of the coolest, smoothest songs of all time.
Have you guys played that? That's a cover band.
No, but it was always in my break music.
Oh, nice. Also good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, weren't a lot of the guys in Toto part of the live Boz Scaggs touring band?
Yeah, they went in and out, and Steely Dan as well.
Instead of, yeah.
Yeah.
Far out,
Crazy.
man.
And Luke won his first, I mentioned it earlier, but Luke won his first Grammy for writing George Benson's Turn Your Love Around.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
crazy. Yeah, we did touch on it earlier with Olivia and MJ, but on Luke's website, there's 18 pages of credits. But some of my favorite moments, and you guys might have some favorite Luke moments too outside of Toto, was we mentioned Olivia Newton-John's Physical. The solo on that is unbelievable.
Yes.
But
Both
it's
of them.
Yeah, but it's bettered by Boz Scaggs' Breakdown Dead Ahead, which is one of my favorite Luke solos. And Lionel Richie's Running with the Night is, come on. But he's played Michael Jackson. He's played and recorded with 3 Beatles, Paul, George, and Ringo.
Wow.
Well, he still plays in Ringo's All-Star Band, doesn't
That's
he?
right, yeah. He wrote and recorded with Elton John, Aretha Franklin, Barbara Streisand, Cher, Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Nicks, Warren Zevon, and he's all over and co-wrote a lot of Don Henley's first solo record. The list just goes on and on. How about you guys? You got any stellar Luke moments outside of Toto?
Nothing you haven't mentioned yet, no.
That's the big... Yeah, I mean, I always think of Physical. I always love that guitar solo, Running with the Night. There's a killer solo on a not cool Lionel Richie song that I play a lot. What is that? Dancing on the Ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
Great solo. Really cool solo.
That's
I
a
like
cool
that
song, man.
It
Come
is a
on.
cool song.
Sorry,
yeah.
guys. Sorry. It is fun to play. Yeah, that's great. That's great, man. Who played guitar on those Don Henley records?
Well, Luke was on the first, what's it called? Dirty Laundry. That was the
Okay.
first album.
Yeah.
So Luke's on that. Luke steps into a lot of Don Henley stuff, but I'm not sure. Obviously, Mike Campbell wrote and played on Boys of
Mike
Summer.
Campbell. That's who I'm thinking
Yeah.
of. Friend of the show.
Yeah. Lucky we don't have a horn.
Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
like that pedal.
Yeah. We got to come up with our own thing.
Maybe.
Maybe the pick scratch.
Yeah.
But I think that's every, again, like the U2 album, we could talk forever
Yeah.
about. There was one little funny story where Luke and Bobby Kimball thought that Africa was the worst song on the album,
Really?
and that it didn't fit. The lyrics made no sense. And Luke's been quoted many times as saying, at the time he said, if this is a hit, I'll run naked down Hollywood Boulevard. But no one ever asked him to pay up on that, thankfully.
That's hilarious. I mean, whenever I hear the word Kilimanjaro in that song, I think I don't know if I know any other songs with Kilimanjaro mentioned in a pop tune.
That's just because no other songs really reach those heights.
Boom, boom.
Yeah, sorry, dad joke.
Well played.
Someone will write in and say someone's quoted Everest and will want to one-up me on that one.
There was a Japanese funk band I once saw at the Woodford Folk Festival, which is like a big festival that usually when there's no COVID is on around Christmas, New Year's. And their album, they were called Mocha Mountain Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
And one of the songs, or Mountain Mocha Kilimanjaro, whichever way. And one of the songs was a song where they sang that. So there is another song where there is Kilimanjaro in the song.
Good. Thank goodness. That's good.
Yes. They were great, actually. Great, wacky Japanese funk band.
Wow.
Anyway.
Have you guys seen that video? It's maybe only a year old or so. Lukather's neighbour gets the leaf blower out early in the morning, so he fires up his rig and gets his wireless. He's in his pajamas, and he's just blasting.
So good. Like he was good value over COVID because he did so many like YouTube live podcasts and interview shows and came out with the crazy hair and he just embraced the whole thing. It was really good to see. I think that's been one thing I think that's been amazing out of COVID is how much closer you've managed to get to the artists that you're into. Like not everyone did it, but a lot of people went out and talked more and realized that people are stuck at home and you could really re-engage again with fans, old and new, on all of these platforms.
Yeah.
And just whether you get your streams up and you get a little bit of movement that way, or you get some kids out there to buy vinyl and just try and put a bit more money in your pocket that you weren't getting from live touring. So I think that's been wonderful. I actually bought tickets and sat into a live stream on the weekend. Grace Potter, which was straight from her shed, and that was her Bonnaroo set because Bonnaroo got cancelled again.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it was killer. And again, that medium, if you're at a festival, and I've seen Grace a couple of times at Blues Fest, you don't get that personal interaction where she was talking to the camera and being silly. You don't get that, and I think that's been an amazing thing for some artists that I think when everything comes back, I think it's going to pay off for a lot of these acts staying connected and relevant.
Yeah, it's cool. That's really cool. Awesome. Well, Rob, great album. Thanks for bringing it along, man. Fantastic.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Rob, where can people find out more about your stuff?
My main gig is Living in the 70s, but I've just kicked off a new, it's not a new channel, but I do have my channel name and I'm doing my live streams from there now. So Rob Rhodes Music on YouTube.
Awesome. Very cool. And Gabor?
If you want to see two guys that can't play anywhere nearly as good as Lukather, review pedals.
I do want to see that now that you mention it.
He's a different level. We review guitar pedals and guitars and amps. And we're just generally having a super fun, awesome, happy time kind of pedal show kind of time. So we're called the Super Fun, Awesome, Happy Time Pedal Show. No gaps, all one word. You can find us on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all that all the good places.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, fellas. Another great, iconic albums, and I'll catch you next week.
See you then. Bye.
All right, thanks for joining us for another Guitar Speak podcast, Iconic Albums. I've really enjoyed putting these conversations together with Rob and Gabor, and it's been a really cool addition to our podcast show, which every week has deep dive one-on-one interviews as well. That's been our bread and butter for the last 5 years, and that will be continuing as well. Thanks to Fretboard Biology for sponsoring today's episode. Check out the links in the show notes. All right, my name's Matt Wakeling. You've been listening to the Guitar Speak podcast. And in the words of Michael Schenker, German guitarist from UFO, the Scorpions and MSG,
Keep rocking. Keep on rocking.
Keep on rocking indeed. I'll catch you next time. Bye now.